May might look like an ardent Brexiteer next to the likes of Soubry. But she does not want the UK to leave the EU, and has been willing to offer important compromises to maintain close relations with her fellow members of the Euroelite. In her much-hyped Florence speech in September, the Prime Minister even conceded that European courts would continue to hold sway in Britain during her proposed two-year transition period after formal Brexit in March 2019, with the UK potentially being subject to new EU rules. As Labour MP Wes Streeting pointed out this week, that is also what the supposed Tory rebels want. It is government ministers who are unable to say who are the true mutineers. On the opposition benches, the Liberal Democrats and Scottish nationalists are of course openly anti-Brexit. The Labour Party remains formally committed to respecting the referendum result. However, the "but" added at the end of that begrudging statement is getting bigger all the time. There were 19 rebel Labour MPs who voted against a crucial clause in the EU withdrawal bill this week. All the rest abstained, apart from 3 real rebels who voted for the government's Brexit bill: Frank Field, Kate Hoey and Graham Stringer. In the Labour Party's case, that 19 is only the tip of an iceberg of Remainer MPs. It is estimated that more than 90% of Labour MPs backed Remain, while more than 70% of their constituencies voted to leave. The new wave of Labour supporters is predominantly made up of middle-class, metropolitan Remainers. That gap between the party and the 52% goes right to the top. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn abandoned his long-standing Benite opposition to the EU at the one moment it mattered, and backed the establishment's Remain campaign in the referendum, as did his left-wing supporters in the Momentum lobby. Last month, having initially dodged the question as did May, Corbyn made clear that he would campaign and vote for Remain again in any second referendum. Corbyn's close allies in the parliamentary party are still former Remainers. Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry, for instance, despises Brexit almost as much as she fears and loathes the working classes who backed it. Last year, she was booed by a question-time audience for suggesting that Leave voters didn't know what they were voting for, and had effectively voted for their neighbours to lose their jobs. "We knew perfectly well," said audience members, "we voted to leave, and I voted for Emily Thornberry to lose her job." Labour's shadow Brexit minister, Keir Starmer, is as much a Remainer as any Lib Dem. And so it goes on. The lack of any firm leadership pushing Brexit in UK politics has encouraged the EU bureaucrats to take a harder line in the sham negotiations, offering nothing and demanding plenty. They do not want to make any deal that would encourage others to take the Brexit path. They want to give Brits a punishment beating for daring to disobey orders. And these Eurosharks can smell blood in the water of UK politics, with the obvious lack of conviction behind the formal support for Brexit in an atmosphere of "we respect the referendum result, but..." EU officials are reportedly even looking forward to the collapse of May's Maim Tory government, which could well further strengthen the Remainers' restraining hand. At best, as things stand, any Brexit deal that our politicians back is likely to be a form of Remain by another name. In these circumstances, walking away from the EU talks blackmail and forging Britain's own future might seem the increasingly common-sense option if we are to fulfill the referendum demand for greater sovereignty and democracy. Yet in the UK Parliament that position is still branded extremism by the conformist consensus mongers. Anna Soubry said this week that the Telegraph's attack on the Brexit mutineers went to the heart of democracy. It does, but not in the way that she means. At the heart of any real democracy stands the demos, the people. In our increasingly unrepresentative system of representative democracy, however, the elites have sought further to separate the demos from the other part of the word, kratos, meaning power or control. The phony battle for Brexit in Parliament highlights the crisis of democracy. We hear a lot of bleating from anti-Brexit MPs about how the 48% who voted Remain are being ignored. Don't worry about that, the Remainers are running this show. The question is, who now represents the 52% of voters who backed Leave? No major UK party can claim to do so, that's for sure. To make a meaningful Brexit happen in Parliament would require a radical realignment of the old party politics, and the breakup of both the Tory and Labour blocs. Don't hold your breath waiting for our largely spineless leaders to do it. To win the real battle for Brexit will require finding new ways to put the demos back at the heart of democracy. To update the slogan of the Leave campaign, we need to take back control, not just from a committee room of Brussels bureaucrats, but from a palace of Westminster currently packed with elected and unelected Remainer elitists. Hume is Spike's editor-at-large. His new book, Revolting How the Establishment is Undermining Democracy, and What They're Afraid of, is published by William Collins. Buy it here. Picture by Getty. For permission to republish spiked articles, please contact Viv Regan.